So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. Um, Thank you for making me think about the best advice. And thank you for giving me an idea for Women in Agile South Africa for one of our meetings next year when we celebrate our first birthday. So thank you so much. So I thought about this, what's the best advice? Because I've also, like Aliyah said, I've had lots of really great advice in my life, and I'll admit, I generally don't follow it, So I'm one of those that have to hit my head against a stone first before I listen. But something did pop up in my mind, and I'll give you a little bit of an intro to it. So quite a long time ago, I heard that every human being has a very basic need to be seen, heard, and loved. And when I heard it, I thought, oh, that's something I can do. I can truly see people. I can truly listen to them. I can most of the time kind of love them, even if I don't like them. Um, but it took me a while to realize that that's something that I need to do for myself as well. I need to do it to myself as well, So I really need to see myself. Really need to hear myself. I really need to love myself, and that was kind of where a challenge began for me, because um, if we think about the world that we live in, we live in a world and work in a world where the norm is when you go to work, there's a professional self, I mean, COVID's changed it a little bit, but there's a professional self, and then there's the private self. And for women, that professional self means if you want to cry, you need to go and do it in the toilet. Okay. If you are assertive, you can very easily be labeled as a bossy bitch, Um, if you get worked up, then you either have PMS or you're in your menopause, or actually you're just an emotional female, and not all men are like that, thank God, of course, but that's certainly part of the space that we're in the workplace, and men suffer from it too, cowboys don't cry, and all of that. So in a work situation, we've got this professional self. In a private situation, if we think about what society wants from us, so generally in societies, nice ladies don't display anger. Um, you know, and women in general should be able to cope. So if you're a wife and a mother, somehow you need to do that and kind of have an even keel emotional life as well, because you are the center of the family and all of that. And a lot of us end up with, as nurturing beings, we end up with this idea that in order, if we for instance angry or have any negative feelings towards somebody, that that it's not useful to express them. Okay, so that leaves us very generally, and it certainly left me in a position where I denied most of my emotions, so I would be very happy sharing the positive ones and feeling the positive ones, but any negative ones, and I judged anger, sadness, disappointment, all of those were negative emotions. So excuse me, the best advice I ever got was from a therapist that I love very, very deeply, and that's been responsible for most of the growth in my life. And what she said to me one day, probably about 20 years ago, she said to me, emotions are not right or wrong. They simply are. Emotions are not right or wrong. They simply are. Wow. I remember the time that she said it to me. I remember it couldn't go into my head, because I'd been doing so much shoulding. I shouldn't be feeling like this. I shouldn't get so emotional. I shouldn't be getting angry, blah, 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 blah. A whole lot of shoulds, So I had to start, first of all, I had to start with finding emotion in me, So she gave me, and those are my dogs, they don't have a problem expressing emotion. So it started with an exercise where I had to stop a couple of times a day and ask myself, what exactly am I feeling now? And I had a list of about 50 or 60 words that I had to choose from. So it's not only, if it's fear, it's not only fearful, it's, am I anxious? Am I anticipating something? Am I excited? It's so really very keenly teasing apart all the emotions. And you know what, in the beginning it would take me 15 minutes when I sat down and I felt, oh, something's bubbling up in me. It took me 15 minutes to figure out from that list of emotions, what the hell am I feeling right now? But that really at least started making me aware of them. So, then that was, that's really when the paw hit the fan, like we would say in South Africa, because now I started experiencing these things and I didn't know what the hell to do with them in the beginning. There was shame, there was anger, there was sadness, and I had to dig through the layers of emotions. So very often when we experience anger, if we look underneath it, we discover, whoops, there's sadness, there's disappointment. If we dig deeper under that, well, then we realize, well, somebody has hurt us or somebody's taken advantage of us, and then anger comes again, very often anger at the self. Why did I let myself be taken advantage of? So over time, I really had to accept whatever I'm feeling. Emotions are not right or wrong. They simply are, you know, and another piece of advice that I got that really helped me was to think about, can I just be okay with whatever is there? And if I can't be okay with it, can I be okay with that? So, over time, I worked through a lot of I increased my capacity to feel emotion and to sit with it and to stick in it, and I mean, I'll probably continue this work till the end of my days, but I'm happy to report that 2 years ago was my year for working through one of the, what I call little jackals, in the world of my life. And that was, I spent a year on trying to work through my envy of other people, and and to not feel shame anymore when I feel envious about other people. So I'm still working on it. I'll still continue working on it, and I've recently, in the process of preparing for this talk, something just came up, like the universe always gives us stuff. And I realized that if we don't know how to say no to whatever can make us angry or hurt us or take advantage of our time or our energy, if we suppress what we are feeling by either not knowing that it's there or by not being okay with what shows up, we physically get sick. So I read this wonderful book, When the Body Says No, and basically everything, if we don't have the battle on the inside, on the outside, we turn the battle to the inside, and our body says no for us. So people that constantly cannot express anger, that don't feel that they've got the right, like many women do, that they've got the right to disagree or to express anger or a different opinion or simply saying no, what happens to them over time is that they contract cancer, they contract rheumatoid arthritis, they contract things like autoimmune diseases. So if there's actually been tests done that if you fill out a personality questionnaire, they can pinpoint whether you are going to get one of these chronic illnesses. So I've now also learned that, as a woman, very often, if we want to express discontent or disappointment with others, we very often turn it inside. In order not to hurt others, we turn it inside. Over the long term, that's not going to be good for us, and it's certainly not going to be good for the person that we are trying to keep happy. So that has intensified, it's intensified my search. And what I've realized now, that when I feel guilt, it's very often because I've done something that's right for me. and maybe not so right for the other person. And I've realized that feeling guilt is much better than feeling resentment. So emotions are not right or wrong, they simply are.